1952년 3월 13일 호주 뉴사우스 웨일즈의 작은 시골 마을에서 웨인 벨이 태어났습니다. 어린 시절을 밀 농장에서 보냈기 때문에 자연스레 비포장길에서 운전을 익혔죠. 미케닉으로 모터스포츠에 입문한 뒤 이후 랠리에도 흥미가 생겨 포드 코티나 마크 1을 구입하여 대회에 참가하였습니다. 이때 코드라이버는 웨인 벨의 아버지인 해리 벨이었죠. 코티나에 만족하지 못하여 이후 미쓰비시 갤란트, 홀덴 제미니, 홀덴 코모도어, 토요타 레빈 등으로 호주 지역 랠리에서 입지를 다지고 있었습니다. 그러던 1991년 어느 날 현대 호주 법인으로부터 연락을 받습니다.
I had my own little suspension business at the time, and a fellow by the name of David Cameron come and seen me. Hyundai Australia are looking at doing a launch of the new Elantra, but they want them built up as rally cars, and they want to run them take dealers for a drive. I said, yeah, okay. And I said, well, you need two cars. I said, one for me and one for Barry Ferguson. So we built the two cars. Everything was ready to go. The event got called off. We had two rally cars, and I suggested to them that maybe they'd like to run a team in the Australian Championship. And of course, it went from there. We went to the first event was the Alpine Rally down in Victoria. The car, I think it might have come top 10. And this is a car that really was slow. It wasn't a fast car, but by God, that is handled. It was a brilliant thing to drive. You could drive the wheels off it. I've never driven a front-wheel drive car that handled like the Elantra. Just unbelievable. And most people who've seen it thought it was rear-wheel drive because of the angles and attitude it used to get up through the corners. We finished that event. We won F2, and then we went on and did Rally Australia. And the thing never fails to finish an event. 24 events straight, and that car finished every one. They were a good thing, and of course then Korea got the idea that this rallying's pretty easy, and they decided they wanted to do the Asian Pacific Championship. So went over to Korea. I'd never been there before. We went there. We met the managing director of Hyundai. Before you know it, we're building cars and sending them all over Asia and whatever, and contesting the Asian Pacific Championship.
(1995년부턴) J1 엘란트라의 후속 차량인 J2 아반떼를 아시아 퍼시픽 랠리 챔피언십에 참가시킵니다. 그리고 이때부터 현대 랠리 스포트 팀으로 활동을 시작합니다.
It was only 12 months after the Chinese had opened up all the borders. Before that, all the borders were locked and people weren't allowed to go from one border to another in China. And the roads, well, they were just gravel, dirt or cement. And you'd see them making the roads with, lots of people with little wheelbarrows and everything else. And it was really an adventure. Like people say the Safari Rally was an adventure. It most likely was. I never got a chance to do it. Particularly that you used to leave and go over there about 3 months before and spend a fortnight doing pace notes. And then you'd come back 3 or 4 months later and actually do the event. We, in the recce, both our rear shock absorbers blew out after a couple of days, and we didn't have any spares or anything. And the only other car that was around was a Volkswagen, right? Golf. But the Golf had a similar rear shock absorber. The mounting top and bottom was the same. All right, the length, open and closed lengths were a bit different and whatever. But anyway, so we bought a set of Golf shock absorbers for the back of this Lantra.
1997년 아시아 퍼시픽 랠리 챔피언십 1라운드 태국 경기까지 아반떼로 참가한 현대 랠리 스포츠는 F2 키트카 규정에 맞춰 신차를 준비하고 있었습니다.
세계 랠리 선수권 대회 출전을 위해 개발된 티브런 월드 랠리카가 오늘 춘천 모터파크에서 공개됐습니다. 오늘 행사에서는 호주의 세계적인 랠리 선수 웨인 벨이 직접 드라이빙 시범을 보였습니다.
Well, that was one thing the Koreans, they had no idea what rallying was all about, or motorsport for that matter. and they had no idea of the planning or whatever had to go ahead. And they were stuffing around with budgets, and they wanted to build Group A cars and everything else. And we were running out of time. So I bit the bullet and I designed all the parts, and we had 3 weeks then to assemble the cars and get them together on a boat for New Zealand. They just decided to do something today and it was supposed to be done tomorrow. That was it.
Were aimed at the World Championship events. Wayne Bell had become the leading driver, the advantage of 12 months development beginning to show. Also bringing a kit car to Canberra was Wayne Bell. The veteran Australian driver had taken Hyundai to 2 Asia-Pacific titles, and Canberra could be the venue for the all-new coupe.
1997년 말 현대 랠리 스포츠는 유럽 경기에 엑센트를 출전시키면서 본격적인 WRC 진출을 꾀하였습니다.
Karanjit Singh driving the Proton Persona. Drives mainly in Asia Pacific. I think he just wants to hog the television screen. There is Jimmy McRae.
유럽 경기가 대부분인 WRC에 참가하기 위해선 호주보단 유럽의 운영 본부를 차리는 것이 낫다고 판단하여 당시 투어링카를 제작, 운영하고 있던 MSD의 현대 랠리 스포츠 운영을 맡겼습니다.
Went to MSD and David Whitehead, quite a nice guy actually, and I drove for the team still, although I shouldn't have because I was nearly 50-year-old, so I was beyond the capabilities really. Yeah. But I thought, oh well, this will be my last fling, and I had the opportunity to do events that we'd only dreamt of in the past. Our first event was Portugal. I drove the car up to the start ramp and everything else, and there was Juha Kankkunen, Carlos Sainz, and Colin McRae. They all come up to me and they said, "Welcome to Europe. You should have been here a long time ago." That was great. I never forgot that. Yeah, so anyway, we did Portugal. We finished 4th in Portugal, F2, of course. But after that, it went downhill. Well, the car we used in Portugal was one of mine that we built before we went over to England. That was an Australian spec car. Great guys, Harry. I really got a lot of time for Ken. Was MSD built, and it failed to finish. I think it did three stages or something. With the engines, we had the Hyundai engine, a long stroke, so it was 8,000 revs maximum. We told them all this, and I said, mate, no more than 8,000 revs, and 245 horsepower is it. Now, the opposition in F2 at the time were getting 260, 280, and they told Korea, oh, no, we'll get 280 out of this, no trouble at all. You know? Of course, after our engines, Graham Wilkins built our engines in Sydney.
Wayne Bell showed his vast experience to lead Rick Bates and Simon Evans.
Hyundai produced their new Evolution 2 coupes for Australian Wayne Bell and the winner of last year's rally, Swede Kenneth Eriksson.
포르투갈 랠리 이후 6번의 WRC 경기와 2번의 호주 랠리를 뛰었지만 2번의 완주를 제외하면 차량 트러블이나 사고로 인하여 아쉬운 시즌을 치렀습니다. 그리고 그것이 웨인 벨의 마지막 WRC 참가였죠. 많은 나이와 더불어 그의 섬세한 운전 스타일은 유럽 드라이버의 거친 운전 스타일에 경쟁하기 힘들었습니다. 비록 랠리 드라이버로서 은퇴하였지만 그것이 현대 자동차와의 결별을 의미하는 건 아니었습니다.
They got burnt a little bit at one point there with the team in England. A few years later, I got a phone call saying we're going to set up our own team in Germany to do the World Championship, and they went ahead and did that. And now they're probably the top team in world rallying as far as. But that all changed when they went to Germany. I tell you, it's unbelievable. Their setup over there. They do credit me with getting them involved in the sport, and I got an invitation to attend Portugal a few years ago. They flew me over and put me up with the places, and I had a fantastic 3 or 4 days at the rally, running around in helicopters and VIP treatment and everything. So that was pretty good, and that was more or less just a thank you from Hyundai. Their engineering, the current engineering and their latest cars, is just right up there with some of the best out of Germany. It is that little i30N, and they're just brilliant little car. They really are. So they can do it.
웨인 벨은 한국 모터스포츠에 새로운 길을 열어갔습니다. 서로 다른 문화가 충돌하던 순간에도 그는 우리의 잠재력을 믿어주었고 그 여정을 함께 걸었습니다. 웨인 벨, 삼가 고인의 명복을 빕니다.
I like to see them do well. Like I said, they're a good company and good people, the ones that I knew anyway, the engineers and G.H. Choi and M.Y. Lim, they are really, really good, supportive people. And even now they still credit the Australian effort with their first rally. And so, yeah, we're still remembered for those results and the work we did, which is good.